Are you ready to navigate the new way to work? Forbes Books presents Dare to Care in the Workplace with Kathleen Quinn Botaw. Here's Kathleen.
Welcome back to my talk with legendary drummer turned keynote speaker, Sandy Gennaro. We've been discussing his serendipitous music career that led him to a career as an in-demand speaker. So Sandy, how can a leader take your BEATS formula, belief, enthusiasm, attitude, tenacity, and service, and bring it to life within their company? Whether you're a CEO, VP, or manager, how do you transition your remarkable experiences into the business world, and how do they take these beats and live them every day?
In my presentation, I go over the fact and I illustrate the fact. I challenge the audience to be the rock star drummer leader of your company, of your team. Because as the drummer is very similar to a leader of a company where he's the most important part of that company or of his department if he's an executive. I'm the most important person in that stage being the drummer. My goal is the fact to bring everybody in sync with me. I set the tempo, I set the tone, I set the whole vibe of the company, the culture, the mission, the drum beat that I provide. The leader provides his drum beat, which is the culture and the mission of the company. The drummer doesn't always stand in front or sit. The drum set is not always in front of the stage, even though he's the most important one. He's in the back in a vibe of supporting the people in that stage. So the leader, the true leader, and not a boss, the true leader is in the background in a mission of supporting his people, advising his people. And another similarity, when I count a song off and give a tempo, that tempo has to stay the same from the beginning of the song to the end. So the leader has to be consistent, just like a drummer, throughout the changes of the song, throughout the challenges of supply chain, of hybrid versus personal, of all of this stuff now, because unfortunately, the pandemic has put the power in the hands of the employee. So you have to make your company attractive to the quality employees. It used to be where everybody needed a job or whatever. It's a little different now. And another point I bring out how a leader can do that, to be a service-oriented leader, was to show their appreciation to the people. The 4 Hall of Famers that I've toured and recorded with, what they have in common is they always appreciated their band. They announced their band on stage on national TV, live, whatever. So don't ever hesitate to catch your people doing something good and reflecting that. Show your appreciation, a pat on the back. What's really important is write them an email, no. A text, no. Employee of the month plaque on the lunchroom, no. A parking spot for them, no. I mean, all those are good, but it's not enough. Write a handwritten note. A handwritten note. It doesn't need to be fancy thank you card or whatever. Just a note on a piece of scrap paper. Write them a note, fold it up, send it to the house and see how powerful it is and see how much. You don't do it for this reason, but that employee will break his hump for you, knowing that you appreciate what they do. You want to make your people feel that they're an important part of the organization or the team. They want to feel that they are important to the success of the team. So in that way, a leader should not be all secretive about. They should be transparent. Of course, they can't be transparent to their whole company about the inner workings and behind the scenes with the shareholders or whatever. But they could be transparent to a point where you exhibit to your people how important they are. Share some of the success stories with the company or with your team. Allow them to speak in a meeting. Don't be the only one speaking in a meeting, dictating what people did wrong, which was a couple of artists that I've worked for who will remain nameless right now. But they're bosses to me. They're not leaders. Leaders inspire performance. Bosses demand performance. That's the difference.
Agreed wholeheartedly. And it's those little acts of kindness, the note from home that can make all the difference, because when you send a note home to someone who works with you every day, who else sees it?
Right.
Their family. And
Right.
so why do we work anyhow, Sandy? Why do you bust your hump?
For my family.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when I talk to audiences, I'm like, look, you're not number one. You never have been. You never will be. You're number two because, employees, people work for their families, number one.
Right.
And if they have faith, you as the employer might be number three.
Right.
So they're not your people. They are a people who have chosen to follow you into uncertainty. So you better make sure they matter to you.
Right. And it's, when people follow, that's a good term. People follow you into uncertainty. In order for people to do that, they have to trust you.
Yes.
And they can't trust somebody that they don't know.
Nobody gets to own a company without having some ups and downs and ups and challenges and whatnot. So you've developed a program called Beat the Odds.
Right.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's all about beating the odds in business and in life. And how do we do that? Well, it depends on the quality of your belief, your enthusiasm, your attitude, your tenacity, and your service. And you're sometimes surrendering to a power greater than yourself. And you can't do it all by yourself, And when you surrender to that power, Kathleen, it's like living with the wind to your back. Issues happen. Oh, it'll be okay. Now, it's not that you're not concerned about negativity or taking all of that and having contingency plans. Well, if this don't work out, it's not living like a pie in the sky attitude of like, everything is going to be hunky-dory. But you have that attitude, but you also have a contingency plan, realizing that there are pitfalls and pitfalls are going to happen. And when you think about service, every single company that exists, whether it's a service-oriented company or a product-oriented company, they exist to make people's lives better in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a sanitation, they take care of your trash, whether it's financial planning and allowing a family to sleep well at night knowing their future is covered, or whatever, carpet cleaning, house, whatever it is, the result is to make humankind live better, easier, happy, whatever it is. So that's the original purpose of a business. When a business is started, is the purpose of the product or service that it provides is to help people.
I wanted to explore one more thing with you. There's a lot of judgment in the world right now. Have you noticed?
How can you not notice?
A lot of people are judgy. What advice would you have for people to leave the judgment behind? You seem to have done that brilliantly. God bless you and America. You seem to have done that brilliantly in your journey. And that's part of your message. It's kind of woven in here. How can we all get better at not judging each other?
My advice in that regard is coming to a realization that the earth and everybody else on the planet besides you don't revolve around you. Everybody has a right to believe what they want to believe, politically, sexual orientation, whatever it may be, your taste in food, your taste in women, your taste in men, whatever it is, everybody has a right to believe what they want to believe. And how you avoid being judgmental is let's agree to disagree. In my estimation, there is never a winner of a political argument. And I've seen the opposite happen where longtime friends, best friends for 30 years, they disagree and they start arguing about political candidates or whatever, and they end up enemies. Nobody wins that argument. And only negativity can come from a discussion about politics. I have my ideas about politics. If somebody asks me, I will, but I'm not going to get into any discussion about my politics, especially if I have the vibe that somebody that I'm talking to believes something different. I'm out.
Yeah, pick up on the cue, right? Yeah.
Correct. Just agree to disagree. And yes, you have your silent thoughts when you see somebody that walking down the street or in an airport and they're wearing a really weird outfit. The first thought is, well, do they have a mirror in their house? But listen, that's what makes that person happy. They might have looked in the mirror and went, okay, this is what I'll wear to the airport. Live and let live. And this is how it was intended to be. Live your life and live and let live. When you see an opportunity to help somebody, do it. And you know what? Somebody, a Vistage member, I think it was a doctor, pointed out after a meeting, when you speak to that person in the supermarket, not only does it raise endorphins on a physical level, the endorphins are released in the recipient of your conversation when it's positive, but there are double the amount of endorphins that happen in the giver of that.
The giving without expectation is
without
such,
expectations. You have doubled the endorphins as the giver
yes,
than the recipient.
I love it. And I love lyrics. I'm an amateur vocalist, very amateur. And I think in lyrics like all the time. So I have to ask you two very important questions.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite artist that you've ever worked with, or just a favorite artist overall?
That's two different answers. Worked with, or just generally speaking, my favorite band is the Beatles, hands down.
The Beatles. Okay.
Yeah.
The Beatles are your favorite.
Correct.
And do you have somebody who you've worked with that's the favorite?
That is very, very difficult because I'll tell you what, almost every single gig I've done is my favorite for a different reason.
That's so great. Explain that.
Well, of course, Cindy is one of my favorites because of the results that happened. And I was at the threshold for stardom. I was there when nobody knew who she was, and we were traveling in a Winnebago, and we were sharing rooms. But then 5-6 months later, she was selling 6 million records, and we're staying in suites and Omnis and taking private planes everywhere. To be part of that ride was an unbelievable experience. Not everybody gets to do that.
No.
Joan Jett's gig was my favorite because not only was she very human-centric, she loved her band just like Cindy did, but she liked to tour in out-of-the-way places. So we went to Singapore and Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and Bangkok, and Taiwan, or whatever. And then she liked to do theater gigs in America. So theaters are my favorite kind of venues to play, but we did a lot of theaters, and as well as opening for various acts. Bo Diddley was my favorite because he was a Hall of Famer, and he deserves, from me, got a tremendous amount of respect from me because he started out, and I heard these stories all the time. Trust me. I was going to say ad nauseum, but I never got tired of it. I never got tired of Bo's stories. But you realize that he was a black man touring the South in the 50s when he had the different water fountain and the stages that he played at, chicken wire in front of them, different range room and whites only, blacks, whatever. And he survived. He ended up in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been in Nashville. I've been in the Ryman, and I learned the history of the Ryman. And I stood center stage, Sandy, at the Ryman, got my picture taken. But that is a gorgeous, gorgeous theater. And they had, they came through a lot like Bo did, right? They had segregation as well. And thank God we're on the other side of that.
That's correct.
You sit where you want to sit. Fit your butt where you want to sit.
Well, we're on the other side of segregation to a point.
Yes, I know.
Still that crap going on there. And, to me, how we're going to change all of that racism crap is, to me, it starts at the dinner table.
Yes, agreed.
Teaching the kids to try to break that cycle. And it's white and black dinner table, not just white, not just black. White
exactly. It's all dinner tables.
That's correct.
And the dinner table, I believe family and faith and the dinner table, everything that happens at the dinner table is what we need to focus on. That's where we learn our best lessons, when we sit and break bread, which
right.
That's when we learn the best from our mommy and daddy. And, so many people don't have families anymore, which is a bunch of malarkey. We've got to get back to honoring the family, honoring my mother and father, and having a little faith in each other, right?
Correct.
My favorite song, John Hyatt, Have a Little Faith in Me.
Right.
Let's close with, what's your favorite lyric?
Well, it's two. There's two songs that are tied for first. One, I would have to say that's a little bit more on the top, is a song by John Lennon wrote called In My Life. That's going to be my funeral song. My wife already knows it. I love the lyrics in that. Every time I listen to that, I still get tears in my eyes. The second one, which deals in the population in general, is Imagine by John Lennon. Why can't we all live in peace? So that's the general message that John had, and he was a peacenik all through the 70s, 80, until he passed away in 1980.
Yeah, well, those are beautiful lyrics. And can you share with our listeners, if they want to book Sandy and they want to talk to him and they want to do work with him because he's helping companies beat the odds, how would they find you, sir?
You can email me at sandy@sandygennaro.com, or they can go on my website and message me through my website. And there are a ton of videos on my website. You can get a little background on my speaking, my professional drumming career on my website, and that's sandygennaro.com. I'm a visitor speaker, but I really love doing keynotes, award banquets, or associations, conferences, or whatever. And in that live environment, a drum set live drumming is always possible, as you.
Yes, and I am a witness to that. So, Sandy, thank you for joining me for this podcast. I appreciate you so much, sir.
Well, I appreciate you, Kathleen, definitely. And you have a very, very nice voice. Don't underestimate your voice. You want to sing it? If you're lost, you can look and you will find me time after time. Go ahead.
If you're lost, you can look and you will find me time after time. You're beautiful. Thank you, Sandy. And we're going to spend more time together. I'm going to tell you that much. I don't know how, but we will.
That's awesome, Kathleen. Thank you so much for your time and this opportunity. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure talking to you.
I loved being with you too, Sandy. And that will do it for another episode of Dare to Care in the Workplace. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, make sure you take a second to subscribe so you automatically get my new shows when they drop. Also, if you have a minute, I'd love it if you could leave a review on Apple or Spotify so more folks like yourself can discover the show. Until we meet again.
This has been Dare to Care in the Workplace. To connect with Kathleen, go to KathleenQuinnBotaw.com. Kathleen's book, Dare to Care, is available wherever books are sold. Dare to Care in the Workplace is a production of Forbes Books.